Welcome to episode 27 of the FoodGrads Podcast, the podcast where we explore careers in the agri-food, beverage, and hospitality industries. I'm your host, Veronica Hislop, a molecular science graduate student and career partner with FoodGrads. This week on the podcast, I interviewed Anthony Bassey. Anthony is a Ph.D. research student at the National Center of Meat Quality and Safety, College of Food Science and Technology, and Nanjing Agricultural University in China. His research area is in meat microbiology. He currently researches meat spoilers in pork loins using a transcriptomic proteomic integration. That's a bit of a mouthful, but essentially that is what he does. In this episode, Anthony and I talked about the graduate school research experience. What's it like to be a researcher, how to do research, how to get published in a research journal, and what exactly is an impact factor. Anthony explained to me more about his research better than my little spiel that was a little bit earlier, and really broke it down in a way that was easy to understand, and I got to learn a little bit more about the cold chain storage process. We also dived into Anthony's passion for food safety, where it comes from, and where he wants to take it. It's always cool to be able to talk to people who are passionate about what they do. I still find it amazingly impressive how much Anthony has been able to produce as a researcher standpoint in such a short amount of time. So make sure to check out some of Anthony's works after this episode. I'll make sure to link them in the show notes because he's done a lot and it's pretty cool. So anyways, that's enough with this introduction. Let's get on to the show. Thank you, Anthony, for coming on the show. I got a sparked interest in you when I saw that you had posted on the FoodGrads website when you had posted about like your experience with the FoodGrads, the safety course that's done by Victor Malil. But then I kind of dug into your LinkedIn profile and I've seen all this amazing thing that you're doing. And I thought, who better to come on the show and just learn more, because I think that you're doing some really great things and I want to share that with others.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
We've already had a little bit of a pre-conversation in the show, and I was almost going to start losing out on some things that are being recorded, so I don't want to lose that out for the audience. So
right.
Let's get started with you, Anthony, and let the audience know a little bit more about you. So could you tell us who you are and what you're doing?
I'm Nigerian. I grew up in a small town called Oron, but I'm from Okobo in Akwa Ibom State of Nigeria. The last child in the family, and the idea of just seeing your grown-ups, your elder ones do something, you actually want to learn. So it actually from there made me to understand more of preventing something than curing something. So that's just the kind of person I am. And I'm more of, I think if somebody should ask me who I am, I tend to just use two words, different, because the way people see me from outside is different from who I am. So the way you're going to see me is like, oh, this guy does this guy does this. But probably when you get to know me in person, I just speak different. Mm-hmm. So it's just a little definition of the person I am. And maybe over time, you get to know what Anthony Bassey or who Anthony Bassey really is.
Okay. So, well, we have some time to learn more about you. Let's just start off with, this might take a bit of time, but I think that we're ready for the ride. I know that you're actually a doctoral student over in China, but you've had, it seems like a big career journey going to there. And would you be able to kind of tell us a little bit how you've navigated from, deciding to go into the agricultural food industry or area and how you kind of where you are now?
Yes, right now I'm working with spoilage bacteria in meat. So I'm actually thinking of going after my PhD, maybe going into the industry, food industry per se, because I don't want to continue the line of education. I really want to start working, applying some of the things I've learned into making that real change out there, because coming from a place where you have a lot of cases of malnutrition, food adulteration, insufficiency, you really want to make that change. You really want to see what you can do to impact the change, at least from your own capacity. So after learning a lot, because so far I've actually learned a lot, no lies. And after my program, I'm thinking of going to food industry. That's more of the reason why you see me taking a lot of courses. If you look at my LinkedIn profile, yeah, I take a couple courses just to get me abreast with what is going to be out there for me. Different fields, not just research wise, but administrative fields like customer relations, project management, and some of the things that I may just get a grasp on. So that probably when I get out there, I'll be able to be more proactive and more useful into making that change, that part.
Okay. So I guess this would be a great place to start talking about this, so that you've been seeing, you're wanting to go into the industry in that. So I wanted to know for you, what are some of the big food issues that you're seeing right now that I'm assuming are starting to spark this interest to really grow in that area?
I read something about Buttergate first off. I didn't really know about it. I think Emi Pro did say something about Buttergate, and then I had to look it up. So it's like some of the fascinating things that are happening out there. Like in my field, what I'm doing currently is about elucidating spoilage mechanism in the cold chain, right? So controlling, then after that, you think about controlling the whole proliferation of bacteria in that process. So looking at it from that perspective, going forward, I feel that's just some of the things that has actually helped me, get a grasp of what I want to do. But so far, to be honest with you, at some point, it's very blurred because I can't really pinpoint what I'm going to do after this. I can't really pinpoint it. That's why I'm doing a lot of things. I can't really pinpoint what I'm going to do. So I'm just trying to get a grasp of everything so that I'm not limited to a space. So whatever it is that is out there, I can actually do something. I think I have a foundation as regards what will be needed when I get to that space. So right now, I can't really say too much about that.
Okay, that's okay.
But I feel in 2 years, I'll be able to, say concretely what I want to do. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you said right now that you're studying about spoilage in the cold supply chain. Did I get that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, I think I would like to learn more about that type of stuff, and maybe you could tell me a little bit more about your expertise here. So, to my understanding, when, we have spoilage, we think about it, bacteria dealing in warmer temperatures and those types of things, but I'm not really too familiar in the context of a cold supply chain. Okay. Would you be able to, enlighten me on some type of topic that maybe you know a lot about, or just let me know more? I'm interested.
Okay. All right. So first off, we have two types of bacteria, pathogenic and spoilage. So I'm not really working with pathogenic, because pathogenic are the ones that cause illnesses and all of that. So I'm working with the spoilage type that makes your food get bad and you want to throw it away, right? So in the cold chain per se, you store your meat in low temperature, say 4 degrees, right? 4 degrees centigrade. Over time, you still go back and see that your pork, your beef, your chicken, or whatever, or your perishables have gone bad. So there's always that proliferation of the bacteria over time that is causing that. Now, my experiment now is about cold chain, not just in chilling. There's also some level of some studies that have actually been done in super chilling. That's minus the sub-zero degrees. Okay. All right. So now still, I wrote a paper in the chilling, which was published around April. That was published in April. Mm-hmm. So I also did an experiment to check the proliferation in super chilling condition, minus 2 degrees. I had to use minus 2 degrees, of which the paper is about to be published maybe in the next 2 weeks. Hopefully, the paper is going to be, out there online. Mm-hmm. Now, I also confirmed that there was some bacteria that still grew in that condition. So now the idea is, while some of the bacteria that grew in 4 degrees, that is a chilling condition, were inhibited in -2, there was still some bacteria that grew, right? So now what becomes the mechanism of that? What causes the bacteria to grow? What are the mechanisms, the adaptive mechanisms that they use to make them still grow? So that is the next experiment that I'll be doing. So now giving you an idea of the whole chain, right? Because if you're talking about 10 degrees, we don't really use that in cold chain because that's like, really call that mesophilic condition. And I'm let me not start bringing the term in. But that's just telling you that the old chain of cold condition, there are lots of processes that still make your food get bad. And that's exactly what's the core of my plan is all about.
Wow. It's really cool what you're studying right now. I mean, I guess that would be really applicable to, like, I guess I'm wondering what type of food types are stored at such low levels? Is it just frozen foods all around, or is it like seafood? Is it, I'm assuming it would be in the meat aspect considering your degree.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some, my lab per se, we really work in meat. But I've actually read some papers. I've actually read some papers that are actually trying to use the same conditions, but not all perishables, maybe vegetables. I don't know more about that. But I know more of meat because if you ask me about meat, then I'm going to actually tell you a lot of things that I know about meat because the whole core of my work is mostly on meat. And I'm using pork as a case study, and a lot of works, like I've said, some works have actually been done. A lot of works have actually been done in chilling, a lot of works. And then you also talk about packaging because I use modified atmosphere packaging. Some, is just combination of gases that can help in reducing that can help in inhibiting this proliferation of spoilage bacteria. Yeah. So the idea is just there are some gas combinations that can actually help, mostly 70% nitrogen and 30% carbon dioxide can also help to inhibit this growth. But a lot of works that have actually been done in chilling, I don't really want to focus there. So I want to know what happens in the low temperature. So meat per se, just the area that I've actually worked on. I don't really know. I can't really say too much about perishables, like other perishables, like vegetables and stuff. But if you ask me meat, then I'll put you through with it.
For sure. Well, I think that it's, I mean, I don't blame you for focusing on that area as well when considering that, dealing with meats, it's such a high valuable type ingredient, and there's a lot more food safety that has to go with dealing with foods in the raw space as opposed to something like a vegetable. So I find it fascinating that we can actually, that processing just plays such a role in how the consumer gets it and the food safety and how much we have to pay attention. And I think that it's really cool that you're focusing on trying to understand that aspect because again, it plays into food safety. And if we can improve food safety, that's a better food system all around.
True. Probably once you grow, right, from bachelor, you do a lot of general stuff. You do stuff from biotechnology, you do courses in processing, you do courses in production, in nutrition, physiology, and the likes. So probably when you get to master's level, it becomes thinner. So now you have to focus on maybe I want to go into nutrition, maybe I want to go into processing. For me, processing, because processing for me is more or less like applicable thing. It's value addition. Once you're done in the field, what happens, the process it takes from farm to fork is that angle that I felt so fascinated about. So the master's level was just about understanding the whole procedures involved in the processing chain, right? So now, once you get there to the Ph.D. level, it becomes extra thinner. So now you have to focus on a particular thing that you want to change. So now the idea becomes, you don't want to focus, like for instance, when I did processing, you talk about animal products like eggs, milk, meat, byproducts and the likes, right? But now PhD is like, no, I don't want to do a lot of these things. I want to really focus on one thing, which is the meat. And then not just the meat, which meats are you really focusing on? Is it pork? Is it beef? Is it chicken? Depends on other countries, we eat camel and the likes, right? But now I'm saying I want to focus on pork because pork is a growing business in my country. So now I really want to focus on pork to see what happens, what I can do to change to limit the spoilage time or duration and increase it, because you can't actually prevent it, you're only controlling it. So if I can control it, then that becomes applicable not just to people in China, but to people in other developing countries who don't have a lot of cold chain facilities, right? So what's the chain with it? As you grow higher in the level, it becomes very thin as regards your specialty. So.
Yeah, no, as someone who's in graduate school right now doing masters, I think that sometimes the most difficult thing is actually deciding what you want to do, because you get to a level, you get to a level that's so specialized. I forget as I'm talking to other people how specialized, like just maybe a few weeks ago, I just was sitting there going, I probably know way more about this topic than most people on this planet at this point, because for me, I study water and oil emulsions and fat crystallization. And like, even within this field of that, water and oil isn't as studied. And I just sat there going, that's what that's what graduate school is, just really focusing on it. And it becomes difficult when you get higher up that you want to start exploring all these things, but then you have to limit yourself because, you need to make the experiments, reproducibility and all that. And you can't do all the fun things all at once. You got to just choose one because it takes months of planning. And it's one thing it's fun, but it's not at the same time. But.
Yes. Personally, I spend a lot of time with the design. Because at the end of the day, if you start publishing papers, and some of the top journals, they ask you a lot about novelty. So what is new? What is new? What is new? So that's always the question they're going to ask you. So what is new? And then sometimes you have some top journals like Q1 journals, they ask you sometimes 5 reviewers. And everyone asking you what is new becomes a big deal for you. So that's the crux of the whole thing. So you have to figure it out from the design. Mm-hmm. And sometimes people don't really spend too much time with the design, because if you don't get the design right, everything is wrong. So I spend a lot of time with the design, trying to read more papers that can actually answer the question that I want to, like the problems that I'm trying to see in some papers, the lapses. I can actually, streamline that lacuna and find a way to fill that void. So that becomes a thing that helps, because now I can actually know that once I get this experiment right, to publish will not be a problem because I've already figured it out from the design. But most people don't spend too much time on the design. They just do the experiment. They just feel like it's cool. Let me just go in and do it. But then at the end of the day, it's hard because you can't actually reach a logical conclusion if you don't publish, because that's research. It has to be reproducible. So if you don't get it right from the jump, because sometimes the reviewers might actually ask you, why did you use this temperature? Why did you use it? And if you can't answer the reason why you used it, then your paper might actually be rejected. And the whole process of the work that you did becomes, just null and void. It just doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So that part too. It's not really cool. It's not really cool. It's hard. Sometimes it's frustrating.
Yeah.
At least you know it though. It's frustrating.
Oh, yeah, I know. I raise my hand sometimes that I want to just run and go do experiments and just the planning stage. And I'm going to divert with this because I know that there are some people listening and they might not be necessarily individuals who have gone to graduate school. And I just want to get a better understanding. I mean, personally, I know exactly what you're talking about, but for those who don't, as someone who's in graduate school, just so we get a better idea, could you give me a better idea of what it's like to be a graduate student in terms of how do you set up an experiment? How do you decide on the planning? What is this process that you go through to actually get a paper published?
First, if you look at my profile, I started having papers May last year. And the first paper I wrote, I read it recently and it was just a lot of blunders there, So I've actually grew from there. Now, the idea was when I came in, I wrote a proposal because first off, you have to write a proposal with regards what you want to do, your plan, what you want to do, right? And when I sent it to my supervisor, he read it and told me this is 5 years back. This is the same experiment I was done 5 years ago. So you can actually do the experiment that's actually been done 5 years ago because the world has actually moved on. So first off, you have to read papers, recent papers. So if for anybody who's actually thinking of going to grad school, you have to read recent papers. First off, you just have to ask yourself, why do you want it? Because I don't think everybody will actually want to go into grad school, but for those who want to go, you're going to ask yourself, why do I want it? And probably once you get it, what am I going to do with it? So that becomes the drive. That motivates you to understand then what you're going to do to get to that level, to get to achieving what you want to achieve, right? So, but first off, the design, you have to read papers, recent papers. Let's say take 2 years. We are in 2021 now, and you have to read papers of, say, from 2019 to 2020, but mostly 2020, because you're going to have to marry the things that have actually been done in 2019 to 2020, and then check 2021, what's also done. And then researchers move. There's a trend. Sometimes people don't do this. Sometimes there's a cool stuff that just comes. There's an innovative technology that just comes into play, and people want to do a lot of work in that angle. Now, you can't actually go back to what people did 3 years ago because people have moved on to a new technology. So you have to find a way that you can actually fix yourself into using this new innovative technology in the new work you want to do. That makes it easy for you to publish papers. All right? Because last year, 2019, I came in and I wrote a lot of proposals. Now my supervisor didn't like it. Last year during the COVID, I had to do a lot of reading. I just had to do a lot of reading. I read a lot of papers, and maybe along the line, I read maybe up to like 100 papers. I just didn't know. It was like the flipping and reading stuff. Mm-hmm. Now I had to marry the lapses, right? The old gaps that I saw, the limitation that I saw in that paper, and just, okay, this is cool. This is okay. This doesn't say this, stuff like that. You're going to start having a lot of ideas coming from the papers you've read. So when I read the papers, I had to just take the salient point of each of the papers and put it into a review. So the review came out. I published the review, and the review is the highest in food science, Trends in Food Science and Technology. That's the highest journal in food science. So I published it, and it was a big deal. So I just didn't know it. It was just, let me just see how it goes. And because review had to set a trend as regards the new area that people might want to go into, right? So once I did it, it just came out, and I was like, I didn't even know this was cool, right?
That's amazing.
Now that gets you, I didn't really know, right? And then that becomes an area that I want to focus my research plan on. Now I get to see a problem that I want to, a way to solving a problem. Now my ideas, my research work now is going to be based on that. So for those who are thinking of going to grad school, first off, find a problem. Just find one problem that you feel is a big deal out there, and see the coolest way, the most innovative way you can use to solve it. Then you won't have problems with publications.
Wow. I mean, I personally have not been published. I'm working on it, but
okay.
But the knowledge that you're imparting right now is definitely what I've heard and what I know is to be true. And it's good advice as well, because it also dips your feet. If you can spend hours upon hours reading about a particular topic and trying to find the intricacies of it, it's a good chance that you're okay to study it for a bit longer, because if you can't handle doing all of the readings, it's might not be the topic you should probably spend the next few years of your life doing, because that's all you're going to be focusing on.
True. Sometimes it's just like, for instance, in China, I don't know how it is in Canada, but in China, in my lab, for example, you have to publish a paper before you graduate. You know, there are levels to papers, right? There are Q1s to Q4s. And then they're also impact factor in a certain journal. So the higher the impact factor, the higher the citation index in that paper, right? And in my lab, I have to publish a paper with a 5 impact factor before I can graduate. Wow. So there's always a peg to it. So at least so far, I've actually done 20 in 3 papers. So I've actually met that, but I still want to do more, you know?
Yeah, that sounds like you. To help with people who are listening, although Anthony's done a good job at explaining it, what we're also referring to is that, you know, when we see it here in the news and all that, when there is a new study has found this or this type of thing, well, these things, these studies get published into different types of journals. And not every journal is necessarily the same impact factor. So something with a higher impact factor means that it's maybe a stronger type of journal, where it means maybe it's more peer reviewed, it's more critically accepted. So again, you want to have a higher impact. And I think it depends on the university you're at. I know for my personal program, you don't necessarily have to publish a paper for the master's program, because some people in my program actually do it under industry. So they get paid, like they do research for that. So they can't really disclose their research. But I know that when you do the Ph.D. program, that you have to publish at least in 2 different journals. Now, we don't have it as strenuous as you, where it's specified. But I know that, of course, as scientists, you want to be in a proper journal that's not unpeer reviewed. So I think it depends on the university.
Yes, it depends. Even it depends on the college too. Different
Yes.
colleges have different requirements for their graduation, for their graduate students. So it also depends on that.
So with what we've been talking about, let's move the conversation. So you've been starting to change things up and, really make an impact in regards to food safety and those types of things. And I wanted to know, where does that passion come from, and what inspired you to want to be into that area?
Like I said, application is always a thing that has always been interesting to me from the get-go. I come from a small space, right, that you get to see issues with adulteration and stuff like that. And food safety is just making food safe and of good quality. So some people get to thwart that. Some people get to just, for the sense of making more money or greed, they get to just change this whole thing, substitute it to something that is not substantial. And just that mere fact, because as you grow, you get the old mantra of growing to give becomes the thing that has actually moved me. Because after I've achieved this, what becomes the impact? So the impact becomes a thing that I have to go in and apply. So I've learned a lot, no doubt. I'm going to learn a lot in the next 2 years, no doubt. But it just doesn't have to end there. There's also a change that you have to do to impact, to making at least a little quota, to changing a little thing within your space. So you can reverberate to changing from a bigger perspective of what is happening around the world. So that's the angle that has always moved me to thinking, after this, I have to go to the industry. Let me see what I can do to at least change something from a chain, because I don't know which angle I might actually work, but just going to that, to making that change from that perspective, from the things that I've learned. So when I enrolled for the food grad course, Victor Munihil, the way he was explaining it was more comprehensive and insightful. And I just knew for sure that this is someone who's actually been there, who've actually seen it, who've actually dealt with it, who've actually conquered it, right? But it's also the same passion that I actually want to go into and see what happens, what I can do. Because like I said, from the jump, I love challenges. I don't know, I've not done it yet, but I feel like the same way I came to China 2 years ago without anything, without any idea of how to write the research paper. And, it's the same challenge I'm actually taking myself there to see what I can do to make that change.
Wow. That's honestly, just hearing you, it's really inspiring to hear. Like, we need more people going into food safety who want to be a change that, just move it in the better direction, because I think we are in a really interesting time in regards to food safety. I mean, the industry is moving towards more digital, and we're starting to incorporate more into that. And not even from that, we're having more scientists study food safety prospects. We're getting better chemicals, better, digital enterprises, and all these types of things that can come together. And so much is moving so fast in the industry, for frankly, it needs to get better. The fact that, we're in this present time and food safety is still an issue in so many places, to hear that there's people like you, like, honestly, just listening, it's really inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you.
Because I know, and and I can agree with you for listening to Victor, who's been in the who's done with the food safety system course. He worked in the industry for so many years, and he's seen what the issues are, and he wants like this new way of looking at food safety, not teaching you the checklists of doing everything, but thinking how to think. And if we can instill this culture into everyone, I think that we can do it and make things safe, because again, I just don't think that there should be as many food safety issues as there are in our present time, given how much we have.
True.
My thought process right now with what you had said, honestly, it sometimes makes me speechless when I'm just like properly, like, having a podcast conversation and sitting with someone. You don't really get to hear people just one-on-one really talk about their thoughts, and like hearing people wanting to change things. Sometimes it just like gets caught, like I get speechless.
The idea is, it's just that the definition of success is different. It's different for everyone. It's different from yours and mine. The perspective that I have as regards why I need something is different. Some people just pitch it to, okay, fine, I want to go to school, maybe get a job, get a better offer, get promotion and stuff. And it ends there. But then for some people, they want to just go further, because it's not just about you. Once you get it, that's about you. But once you want to make that change, it's not about you. It's about the people that that are supposed to expect that sense of purpose in your person. Because if you're getting something, there has to be that, that level of change. There's a change with it. So for some of us, especially me, I don't know about anybody. I can't actually speak for anyone, but I speak for the reason why I need something. The reason why I really need it is not because I just want to get Ph.D. No, it's because of going back to seeing things, going back to reading things, to reading situations around the world, and then going to the climes that I come from. You get to see that the problems don't live. And sometimes people still add to the problems. While you're trying to save a step, people just add 10 more steps to make it worse. So it's just the idea of going there to try to see, what can I do to change something? That becomes a sense of purpose as regards to humanity. What do you want to do to make it different and make it positive, right? So then the whole effects of you getting it becomes that you have to work hard to get it. You have to persevere irrespective of the challenges you're going to face. You have to persevere to get it. And once you get it, this is what I want to do with it. So that becomes the whole positive vibe that, emanates from it and exudes in the same sense that once you get it, you will actually use it to make that difference. So it's always the thing that I drive my definition of success, and so far, so good.
You got me thinking as well as you're talking that we've seen so many things that happen with the pandemic, and the food industry was one of the ones that kind of just kept chucking along while it happened, because food is essential and all that. But even as me, who's worked in QA for the period that I did, we think about a lot of our heroes that are, the doctors, the nurses, and all these people who were essential workers that worked during the pandemic. And yes, they definitely were. But also, I think that the pandemic hopefully can shine about like the people that work in food safety. Like, these are people who are making a change every day, keeping our food system safe, that you don't need to question what you're eating every day if it's going to hurt you. And I would love to see more of a highlight of these individuals in cultures that are creating these safe food systems, because they are making changes in even just protecting you from not, keeling over when you eat something. Like, that is a really admirable occupation. And when you work in food safety, there's a sense of satisfaction knowing that, you've you've made sure that nothing is unsafe. And I think that, like, thing with this podcast, and one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on, because I could tell that you would inspire. And I think that we need to kind of highlight that more, to show like these jobs are very fulfilling and they do make a change, even though people might not notice it.
Yeah. There's this adage once, I don't know if I get it right, an apple a day makes the doctor go away, right?
Yeah.
I can't know, but yeah, it's something like that. I think
an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Yeah.
yeah. I think I kind of like paraphrase that. But that shows how important food is. Food is just a thing that you can't go a day without. In as much as you want to say, oh, I'm fasting or whatever, but it's a thing that is very important to your health, to your livelihood. So you can actually go off with it. You can, so it becomes a thing that, a field that people have to put a lot of time in, a lot of resources in to making it safe, because it's not easy for you to make food safe. There's a chain from the planting, the harvesting, to the storage, to the distribution, to, the whole chain of making food from that space to consumption goes through a lot of processes. And it's very risky, because anything that can happen in the chain can also cause food to be contaminated or to be harmful to humans, right? So if people can actually get it right from that space, people pay more attention to everything that is happening there and understand that food scientists are actually doing a whole lot of work to making sure this is happening for them to have it. It's just that sometimes people look at food safety as, that career is like, they don't really pay more attention to it. So they just look down, not knowing how important this is for your life. Right? They don't really see from that perspective. So I feel like you said, this is a clarion call for agencies, food agencies, advertisement companies to actually make sure that food scientists actually at least get the roses they deserve in making sure that food gets safe and is of good quality to consumers.
For sure. And I mean, one of the biggest things with food safety is you don't realize if you realize when it's going wrong, but you don't really realize when it's going right, because you don't see a lot of the times if there's bacteria on a food, like you just don't see it. You would never know. I mean, sometimes, yes, there's, like you were talking about, spoilage and like pathogens and those types of things that, if they're different things. So like if you don't clean an allergen surface, for example, you don't see it. You don't see it. And it's harder, I think, to really instill that we need to clean these surfaces. I mean, even with COVID, it's just shown how much washing your hands makes a difference. You can't see any of it, but like, it's the same thing with food safety. When you wash your things, it makes a difference.
True. Yeah, it's just very important to keep these things handy. It should just be a rule of thumb, across even those in the kitchen, not just food industries, even your food. Like, you just have to pay more attention to making sure that everything you're doing is seamless and is clean throughout the chain, of your preparation and all. Yeah.
And I was just, one of the things, because you've done a lot of research and it sounds like you're really exploring the topic around food safety, and you're just exploring all these different things. I was wondering if there's any things that you think people should be checking out, maybe like people, podcasts, books, or like anything in that realm that you think that would be good for a student or a young professional to check out.
Personally, I don't do more of, I used to read books, but it wasn't just research books. Way back, I used to just novels. I just do it for fun, right? Way back then. But now I don't really keep up with the books no more. And then podcasting food safety, I've not actually paid a little attention to it because of the work. It's been choked, right? So I just do more research papers. Okay. So what I do is I keep notifications for the areas that I'm really into. Since I'm into food science, so I keep notifications to any journal that's released in my area, because now I have to focus on the scope. It's not just food safety, it's not just food science per se, because you have food chemistry, you have food hydrocolloids, some journals there, you have LWT, you have a lot of ones. But then the one in Canada per se is Food Research International, right? Now I have some of these journals that are within my scope. So I keep tabs on those journals. Any paper that's been released, then I get to see it. And then if it's related to my area, then I read it. So it's like me keeping tabs with what is new. That is what I do. But when it comes to the podcast, I don't really
no worries. Hey, I mean, like journals at the end of podcasts are just like a lot of the time like an interpretation of the newest journal science anyway. So you're just basically going straight to the source for any of those types of things. So, yeah. I mean, there's nothing better than actually reading a journal that's written in a well comprehensible way that actually has some like really new novel things that you can just see that it's going to shake up or like really cause a ripple effect in the future.
True. And some, like I also tell people, like for those in food science, then get to join food science associations, because it also helps you to get to understand. If I didn't join Canada Institute of Food Science and Technology, I wouldn't have actually, got to get to this point. I wouldn't actually met, Victor. I wouldn't actually met a couple people, or Nicole,
Mm-hmm.
So it's just that there's always, once you need something, there's some things you have to give. You have to pay more attention to the things that can actually connect you to the people that can help you in that area. So one of the things is just joining associations, because you get to meet people of like minds. You get to meet people or professionals. You also meet students who can share ideas with regards to what you want to do. So it's easy for you to actually streamline, because they say 2 heads better than one. So it's easy for you to streamline and understand, and then concretely understand what you want to do and what you want to go into, right? So it's just some of the things that I do. I've actually joined this, and then I don't know, maybe some of the ideas that I think, because sometimes I think a lot. I'm more of an indoor person. So I do more of just checking things and understand, what am I going to do to change this? What am I going to do? So that's always the thought. And then once I get that mojo of what I want to do, then I just go into doing it. So it becomes like breaking it down into different, how do I put it? Into just different parts that I can, let me do this, because I can't do 2 things at the same time. So I just do one thing. Maybe ladies do 2 things at the same time. They're kind of like ambidextrous like that. I'm not. So I just focus on one thing and then stick to it. Finish it before I get to the next one. So it's just like, association is very important if you really want to, understand what is going out there, what is going on there. Reading papers that is related to your field, not everything, just the ones that are related to what you think you want to do. Also helps you to, get the full grasp as regards what you think you can do to making that change in the long run.
I gotta agree. Associations are definitely a great go-to. I mean, it's kind of the standard advice, but you know what? It's great advice because you meet so many new people. And to be honest, I find it really interesting that you even signed up for CIFST, considering your location.
Yeah.
But I guess that's one good thing about the pandemic as well, that because of all the offerings have gone online, like I know CIFT was doing a lot of those table talks that were like really informative. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter where you were. Like, you can network with people. I mean, here we are like 12 hours apart.
Yeah, even the cause, sorry, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, even the course, right? Even the course Victor did, the food safety system course, it was 9 p.m. till 4 a.m. in the morning. So I had to do that stretch. Sometimes it's just, you just have to, there's sacrifice. You just have to understand that there's no guts, no glory. You have to pay a price to want something that is very important to your life. You just have to pay that price. And then follow your dreams. Like you used to say, follow your dreams, not your addictions, right? So just stick to it and then understand that this is important in your life and you have to go in for it. So I've actually joined CIFST. Has actually helped me a lot because I get to meet people. I get to cool people. I have Francois in I think it's in Quebec. He's in Quebec, and then I met some couple guys who are just nice so far, and they've actually like helped me through with things and stuff. And so far, I can't really say I've regretted any moves that I've made in joining associations, because it's actually helped me to meet people and also help you to challenge you into knowing, this is what I want to do. I think I want to do something like this, because sometimes you get ideas in what people talk about, or maybe webinars. You also attend webinars and get to know about some of the cool stuff that is happening in the industry. So it helps you to, try to marry these things probably once you're doing your design, because sometimes you have to do a design that is applicable out there. And then food that can also become an information for food scientists or food industries to making a change, or to applying that to making the real change that can make the food safe. So it's also a way of getting to see this professional stuff, and then you marry that into what you're doing theoretically.
And when you've been meeting these individuals, because I'm assuming it's been online, do you have any advice to kind of open these connections? Because I know it can be a little intimidating if you've never met someone before, and you can kind of feel like it's hard to talk to someone who's maybe well into their career. Do you have any advice that's helped you, build these connections?
First off, just start small. You don't really look for the big people, just start small. Start. Last year, when I started getting into LinkedIn, because LinkedIn I just joined like a couple months ago, and you just start with yourself. Just get yourself right. Don't jump into just talking, because sometimes people are very busy. People also get to view your profile too. So probably when they see that, it's not really, people have this, there's this thing with the eyes, right? The eyes just see something and then we're like, I'm not going to get involved right now, So sometimes you just have to take your time and work on something. Just do something, just relax, do something. Once you start working and then you do at least a little thing, because sometimes it's just like when you're asking somebody for favors, you can't just say, I need 100% of something. You're going to have to start somewhere. You're going to have to just, okay, fine, I need money. How much do you have? So I can help you get to the level that you want. So that's the thing that I get people should also understand. Like, first, work on yourself. Work on whatever plans that you're having. And then see the people. Sometimes what I do is I read papers of the people that I feel like I'm actually want to collaborate with. I read their papers and I see if it is applicable to what I want to do. And then I'm actually just send you a very, sometimes people don't just like, just go straight to the point and say what you want to say. That's some of these people are very nice people. They just stop by once they have the break and then check in and like, okay, fine, this is it. But then you have to get to the point of what you want to do and why you need them into your space. And most times it works, most times it doesn't. But then if you see that it doesn't, then you just move on. No ill feelings. But first, just work on yourself, first off.
I think that's excellent advice, and we are coming to the end of this show, so I think that's a good place to end it. But before I let you go, if people wanted to find you or connect with you, Anthony, where can we find you?
LinkedIn first. I do love LinkedIn. I don't do Instagram, so
no problem.
I'm more of a LinkedIn. I'm more of a LinkedIn person. You can find me on LinkedIn, Anthony Bassey on LinkedIn. And ResearchGate. Yeah, ResearchGate for just research works. For people want to read my papers, you get to see some of the collaborations I've done. Then you can see ResearchGate Anthony Bassey too on ResearchGate. And Twitter, but mostly just LinkedIn. You connect me more on LinkedIn.
Okay. Yes. Well, you're just like most of the guests that I interview on the show. It's LinkedIn. So I personally too, I feel like once you get into a certain space, it kind of, certain people tend to go to certain things. Like for me, I'm kind of starting off on Twitter, but LinkedIn's definitely the best place. So, but ResearchGate, hopefully soon I'll be on there. Hopefully soon.
All right, no problem. I'll watch you. I just, I'll look at you. Yeah, I'll see. Just keep doing what you're doing. You get it right because, probably once you do it, it becomes easy. The fact is, once you publish it, you say you're writing your paper, right? You're working on it. Once you publish it and you pass through the whole rigors of the peer review, once you're done and it's accepted and it's published, it's online, forget it. Like everything is just going to be easy because you now know the intricacies involved and what you can do to get your papers out there. No matter time. So just keep doing what you're doing and just lean on it. It's going to align very soon. I'm watching you though. I'm watching you, Veronica. I'm watching you.
Well, thank you, Anthony. I trust me, everyone's gonna know when I publish, I swear. But anyway,
I'm gonna look at it. I'm gonna see. I'm gonna have to even follow you once you do that.
For sure. I will not be scared to share it because I will be very proud. But anyways, I'm happy that you were able to come on the show. So thanks so much, Anthony.
Yeah, thanks for having me anytime. Thank you.
That was episode 27 of the FoodGrads podcast. All the notes to this podcast can be found on the FoodGrads blog or by clicking the Student and Grads tab on the homepage. Do you know anyone you would like me to interview on the show? Perhaps yourself or a specific career path that you'd like me to explore? then reach out to me and let me know. You can email me at veronica@foodgrads.com or any of the FoodGrads social media channels. Hope to hear from you. It was fun having Anthony on the show and just talking about our shared experiences as graduate students. One of the cool things about being a graduate student is that you get to become really specialized in a topic, but then at the same time, that can be much of a curse. There's just so much cool food science stuff that's out there in the world, and I just want to explore it all, and it can take up a lot of time, and it can really divert from your studies if you start to go out of your scope. It's good to read broad, but at the same time, you do have to kind of specialize. So my word of advice, though, if you are considering going to graduate school, make sure that you really like your topic, because you're going to be immersing yourself in it for years. And if you start to realize that it's not something you like, it can be a difficult transition. So make sure you like what you know. Anyways, that's it for this week's episode. Thank you everyone so much for listening, and I will see you next time.